Student loan relief? Blocked. I'm your host, Steve Van Metre, and thanks for joining me today. And 26 million borrowers who were counting on having their loans forgiven will now have to make payments starting in January. Let's head over to USA Today, where we picked today's story up as U.S. judge in Texas blocks President Biden's student loan debt forgiveness plan. A fresh injunction is in addition to a block from the 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which put the program on hold nearly 3 weeks ago, while it considered a separate lawsuit brought by 6 states challenging the program and the president's authority to act. Now, when this program was originally announced, I thought that there's no way this is going to go through without it being drug out in the courts. It was attempted to be fast-tracked through the system, but now you're seeing it grind to a halt, and borrowers should be prepared to make payments in January, because who knows how long this thing is going to be stuck in the court system. The administration has said it can offer far-reaching loan forgiveness under a 2003 law that allows for such measures during national emergencies. In this case, that emergency is a pandemic. The Texas case was brought on by the Job Creators Network Foundation, which calls itself a nonpartisan organization founded by entrepreneurs who believe the best defense against bad government policies is a well-informed public. In this case, the HEROES Act, a law to provide loan assistance to military personnel defending our nation, does not provide the executive branch clear congressional authorization to create a $400 billion student loan relief forgiveness program, according to the judge, Mark Pittman, who, no surprise, was appointed by former President Donald Trump. The program is thus unconstitutional exercise of Congress's legislative power and must be vacated, and this is putting that whole program to a halt. Now, you can imagine this is going to get challenged, and of course that will probably be challenged again and again until who knows how high up the food chain this goes before a final decision on if the program can be allowed or not. The court is not blind to the current political division in our country, but it is fundamental to the survival of our republic that the separation of powers as outlined in our Constitution be preserved. And by having interpreted the HEROES Act, the court holds that it does not provide clear congressional authorization for the program proposed by the Secretary. Of course, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a statement that the Justice Department has filed an appeal saying that even though Pittman says this is unconstitutional, that if they're going to fight it and get it turned around. But will they be able to do it before January? Well, I don't think they will, but they're going to try. We will never stop fighting for hardworking Americans most in need, no matter how many roadblocks our opponents and special interests try to put in our way, according to Jean-Pierre. She noted that, of course, the information of 26 million borrowers provided to the department will be handled so they can quickly process the relief, assuming they prevail in court. And this attempted illegal student loan bailout will have done nothing to address the root cause of unaffordable tuition, as greedy and bloated colleges that raise tuition far more than inflation year after year while sitting on $700 billion in endowments, according to Elaine Parker, the president of the Job Creators Network Foundation. We hope that the court's decision today will lay the groundwork for real solutions to the student loan crisis. And of course, anyone who's been to college knows that, of course, the real problem isn't that we need government relief, is we need reform at the college level. And so there's some rights to what they're saying here. But the problem is a lot of people have been counting on this relief. They've been factoring in their budget. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is the child care tax credits are going back to the normal ones from before the pandemic. That's also happening in January. So not only are people going to get this new loan payment or the continuation of the payment that has been suspended during the pandemic, they're also going to face another hit to their bottom line, and that's less money, which means less money going out to the broad economy at a time that's already slowing. At least 26 million people have applied for a one-time student loan debt relief, and under the plan the president announced back in August, it would cancel 10,000 student loan debt for those making less than $125,000 or households with less than $250,000 in income. People who receive Pell Grants in college will have another $10,000 in debt forgiven if the courts say it can. Now, I don't know what you think about this. Are you for this or against it? Do you think the problem is at the college level? Should the government be paying for everybody's tuition? What are your thoughts? Weigh in the comments, because another thing that's going on here in the news is that Elon Musk could be going broke. Now, I want to preface as we get into this part of the story is that he's borrowed heavily against his Tesla stock, and this is not surprising. A lot of executives, rather than sell their stock and create taxable gains, will just borrow against it on the hopes that it will perpetually go higher and higher. And now, thanks to the acquisition of Twitter, he's in big financial trouble. As Musk sells another batch of Tesla shares despite vow to stop, and he unloaded another set of shares, 19.5 million, worth almost $4 billion in the latest transaction. Those filings come despite assurances from Tesla's CEO and the largest shareholder that he was done offloading stock, saying it was important to avoid an emergency sale in case he needed to close the Twitter acquisition. But the problems at Twitter are just mounting, because now his fortunes in Tesla are tied to the ad business it's long eschewed. In one of the first acts as chief twit, Musk tried to assure advertisers that Twitter wouldn't become, in his words, a free-for-all hellscape. And as someone who uses Twitter every day, and I don't know if you use it as well, but it's certainly changed under his leadership in a big way. And so the problem Musk is facing here, he's got about $1 billion a year in interest payments. The company's already losing money to begin with. On top of that, you're seeing an exodus in advertisers. And of course, he's cleared the house with a lot of employees, and that has not gone well. As Musk tries to soothe safe space concerns of Twitter advertisers who keep leaving in droves. As Musk spoke on a public chat that reached more than 114,000 listeners, including a number of official brand accounts such as Target, Pandora, Chipotle, and Chevron, the service has seen a number of major brands pause ad spending in recent weeks since Musk bought the company and took it private on October 27th. Now, this is an issue as we don't know now, there's a private company, how much money he's losing every day, but I can assure you the amount is staggering. As Musk first emailed to Twitter staffs after laying off a huge number of them into remote work and says, you got to put in at least 40 hours. The road ahead is arduous and will require intense work to succeed as the CEO faces massive losses. In a separate email, he added that over the next few days, the absolute top priority is finding and suspending any verified bots, trolls, and spams, at yet a time when his new programs have increased the number of that. So you can see desperation from the top down with a very light staff that needs to get this turned around. And now he's facing people from the top leaving, and that will be a huge blow to morale. As Twitter's cybersecurity chief is now leaving the social media company. And he's not the only one, as Lee Kishner, Twitter's former chief information security officer, announced that they were leaving on Thursday. Damian Kirian, the chief privacy officer, and Marianne Fogarty, the chief compliance officer, also resigned from the company Wednesday night. And if you're a rank and file employee at Twitter, news of the top exiting is not something that's going to make you want to work even harder. It's going to have people looking at the door and looking for a way out, which could lead to an outright collapse in the company. As Musk warns Twitter bankruptcy now possible as senior executives exit, perhaps amazingly realizing he can't keep the ship together. As the chief twit warns employees of now 80-hour weeks and lost perks. And while the buyout has removed Twitter from the scrutiny of public markets, Musk loaded the company with almost $13 billion of debt. It's now in the hands of 7 Wall Street banks that have been unable to offload it to investors, as nobody wants to touch Twitter with a 10-foot pole because they don't believe that Musk can keep it together. Confidence in the company has eroded so rapidly that even before Musk's bankruptcy comments, some funds were offering to buy the loans for as little as 60 cents on the dollar, a price typically reserved for companies deemed in financial distress, suggesting that Twitter is about to go bust. And Musk himself is also focused, as he focuses on Twitter, is facing a $56 billion lawsuit on his Tesla pay package. Notably, he is engulfed in the overall Twitter. The entrepreneur is headed to a trial to defend his record $56 billion Tesla pay package against claims it unjustly enriches him without requiring his full-time presence at the car maker. So what could happen here for Elon is he could be forced to sell more of his Tesla stock, and that could drive it lower and lower to the point where he can get margin called on his own shares, require him to sell more and more and more, and he could drive that stock all the way down to next to nothing. At the same time, the Twitter is imploding. But as far as consumers go, the timing of this student loan challenge couldn't come at a worse time. With holiday season here and January just around the corner, it's going to mean less spending as consumers have to change their budgets and now factor a payment they thought was gone. And with that, I'm Steve Van Metre. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being fans. Bye now.